Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's BigHomieAnt 97, and today we're gonna react to WWE wrestler who never changed their looks. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Let's get it started, man. Let's get it started.
Just like in movies, the pro wrestling world allows one person to have multiple characters and gimmicks, and with gimmicks come new
Facts.
costumes and a total look makeover. The majority of WWE wrestlers get to do this at least
Gangrel.
once in their careers, but a rare few actually spend their entire careers with just one
I know a
look.
couple
Who are
wrestlers
the
that never changed
wrestlers
their
who never
characters.
change their looks?
Cena.
Stick around to find out. If you had to guess,
He did.
you'd probably have The Undertaker
Yo,
somewhere on your
babyface.
list, because for
The
over a
Undertaker-
decade,
the Undertaker
he was
always been
known
the
for his
same.
pale
Always.
face, dark eyes, and trench coat. But real OGs of the wrestling industry
Always
know
been the
that
same.
back
The
in the
Undertaker
early
never changed. It's always been the same. Did he reinvent himself? Yeah, he did, but the Undertaker never changed. He looked the same. Always the same, man.
90s, when he was new in the WWE during the original Dead Man and Darkness eras, Taker's look had the purple baggy necktie. He also had the Lord of the Rings era, when he'd descend from the rafters with a
American
Batwing-style cape
the
and
Phenom,
some 80s rock star all-black
whole
leather
bunch.
gear. Even his 2020 Last Ride look had the bandana added to it. Who else? John Cena? Sure, he stuck to baggy shorts, a t-shirt,
Never
and a face
changed.
cap for most of his
Always been
in-ring
the same.
career. But do you remember the Doctor of
That's
Thugonomics
facts.
persona? Yup, old school jerseys, really heavy-looking jewelry like some character out of the Boondocks. That's not trademark Cena. The point is, even the most iconic of wrestlers have had stints where they changed their looks for a short period, even if they eventually returned to their old look. This puts the wrestlers we're about to mention in a separate special class of their
It's
own.
still the same
So if some of
regardless.
your favorites pop up among
Like
them,
Cena, The
you're welcome.
Undertaker.
First, we have Goldberg. This becomes less of a
Goldberg, always been
surprise
the
when you
same,
find
but
out that
like-
his stage name is his actual birth name. After all, if a
Goldberg.
guy isn't bothered enough to change his stage name, you'd expect the same energy when it comes to his looks. For real though, your opinion on the caliber of wrestler Goldberg can be used as a test to find out what era of wrestling you're most familiar with. If you think he's just some old bald guy who came into the WWE in 2016 and was pushed to some sort of legendary status, you're not exactly wrong, but there's so much more to Goldberg than that. William Goldberg became a pro wrestler in
William
1997 after leaving the NFL. Wait, what? That's right, Goldberg actually played in the National Football League. He had been a star football
He
athlete
sure
since
did.
high school and got a scholarship to play college football for the University of Georgia as a defensive tackle. Soon after, he was drafted by the Los Angeles Rams in the 1990 NFL Draft, after which he had stints playing for the Atlanta Falcons and some teams in the Canadian Football League. Unfortunately,
You
he
know,
sustained...
that's a lot of wrestling they want to make to NFL, but it's just gonna do it. It was like one injuries, one there was not. It was not up to the standards of NFL. Three, they didn't live up to it. So, what led to was going to WWE wrestling. That's what. That's a lot of stuff that got
career-ending
very
injury
popular.
in 1996.
outside
But in a
NFL.
twist of fate, during his rehab from that injury, Goldberg began powerlifting and mixed martial arts training.
could
It
mess
was
you up
during
pretty
this
badly.
time that he was discovered by future WWE wrestlers Lex
Luger.
Luger and Sting, who convinced him to get into pro wrestling. Fast forward to June
Wow,
1997,
that's
and he was taking part in his first ever official wrestling match in Georgia under the name Bill Gold. That was the only period in his career that has
time,
lasted
nobody
for more than
even
2
cared at that
decades
time, though.
that
He only
this
cared
dude
about
was
making
known
money,
as
and that's it
anything
pretty
other
much.
than Goldberg. As soon as he stepped onto the big stage,
He didn't
he
care,
launched
to be
his
honest.
iconic shirtless in all black pants and shoes character, and he never looked back. Between 1997, when he made his WCW debut, and 2001, when the company folded, Goldberg rose to become not just one of the most successful wrestlers in the promotion, but also the company's highest-paid wrestler. The face of WCW, Goldberg, was a one-time World Heavyweight Champion, a two-time United States Heavyweight Champion, and a one-time World Tag Team Champion at the company. He also holds the joint record with Bret Hart as the 5th WCW
That's
Triple Crown
interesting.
winner. When Vince McMahon bought out WCW in 2001, Goldberg was one of the few who refused to join the Invasion storyline. Instead, he
I was gonna blame Goldberg for not joining it. It was okay at first, but now it got pretty bad, redundant after a while. with the invasion storyline. It was the same thing after a while. So I don't blame Goldberg, Hogan, Nash, Scott Hall for not joining during that time in 2001, which I completely understand.
Wrestled for All Japan Pro Wrestling between 2002 and 2003, before eventually coming to the WWE. His first spell in the Stanford-based promotion only lasted a year, long enough for him to become a one-time world heavyweight champion. Goldberg then took a 12-year break from wrestling before returning to the WWE in 2016. And guess what? He returned as the same old Goldberg from the late 90s and early 2000s. Bald head, goatee, and all black gear. The only change that could be seen was from over a decade of aging. He has since gone on to become a two-time WWE Universal Champion and has headlined multiple pay-per-view events, including the 2018 WWE Hall of Fame show. Sure, he has not won nearly as much as many other WWE superstars, but he is regarded as one of the most iconic faces in the industry, partly for his dominance in the ring, but mostly because of his...
Don't get me... Oh my God, don't get me started on that, bro. Yo, the way Goldberg beat Bray Wyatt in 2018 Saudi Arabia, Conjure, but that really pissed me off. Like, yo, oh my God, that was so freaking mad,
his
bro.
consistent look. The likes of Steve Austin and Mark Henry have called him one of the strongest wrestlers in history, while others like WWE Hall of Famer and industry veteran Arn Anderson, Diamond Dallas Page, and Bobby Lashley have claimed his 1990s era was as famous as any wrestler has gotten. The fact that he never changed his look also made Goldberg a very easy character to parody in many wrestling promotions around the world. Before Goldberg joined the WWE, Vince McMahon tried using longtime jobber Dwayne Gill as a parody of Gilbert. And after Goldberg's first stint in the company, the WWE tried pushing Ryback in 2012 in a similar manner to how Goldberg was pushed during his WCW days. In fact, at some point, fans at WWE events began chanting Goldberg once Ryback got into the ring. To put it simply, Goldberg sticking to one look all through his career gave fans a feeling of consistency and loyalty, a feeling that they often reciprocated for him. For this next wrestler, keeping the same look was more of a trademark thing than anything else. And we're talking about no other person than Rob Van Dam. Long hair, colorful singlets, and black half gloves, Robert Alexander Satkowski, who was known by everyone as Rob Van Dam, had many selling points in his prime. To some, he was known as one of the most technical and high-flying wrestlers of his generation, as well as one of the most charismatic guys, but probably the most iconic thing about him was his look. RVD's famous skill set came through his training in kickboxing and martial arts, seeing as he received training in karate, taekwondo, aikido, and kajukenbo before having a career in pro wrestling. Because of this, Van Dam came into wrestling in the 90s and took the entire industry by storm. When he got his major breakout in the ECW in the mid to late 1990s, RVD was managed by Bill Alfonso and had well-received feuds with Jerry Lynn and Sabu. He'd go on to form a tag team with the latter, winning the ECW World Tag Team Championship twice. His most iconic moment of this era, however, was defeating Bam Bam Bigelow to win the ECW Television Championship in 1998 and holding the title for an insane 700 days until an injury forced him to vacate the championship in March 2000. Like a couple of other guys on this list, Van Dam joined the WWE in 2001 as part of the Invasion storyline, following the shutting down of the ECW. While a number of guys struggled to remain relevant when that arc ended, Rob Van Dam had quickly become a fan favorite, and in the few years that followed, working as both a singles and tag team wrestler.
Like, once he got to WWF in 2001 after ECW closed down, but people was chanting RBD, people was cheering for him, but he was so over, but like people wanted to see more RBD, what he could do, his movesets and stuff, even his promos, man. Like that's how over he was, man.
RVD won the WWE Hardcore Championship, Intercontinental Championship,
That's all
European
called
Championship,
I wish you could bring it
Tag
back
Team
in
Championship,
today's
and
era.
World Tag Team Championships.
They could,
He also
but
won the Money in the Bank ladder
they could.
match at
It's impossible.
WrestleMania 22, which led to him challenging then WWE Champion John Cena to a title match at One Night Stand. Surely enough, RVD came out on top to win his first World Championship. After 6 eventful years, he left the WWE in 2007 to work on the independent circuit and later on the TNA and Lucha Libre AAA worldwide. Again, he was successful in these promotions and remained signed to TNA until 2013 when he made a 1-year return to the WWE. Since then, Rob Van Dam has worked in the independent circuit, had a couple of spells back with TNA, and has been inducted into both the WWE Hall of Fame and the Hardcore Hall of Fame, seeing as he was ranked the #1 pro wrestler in the world by Pro Wrestling Illustrated in 2002, voted the most popular wrestler by readers of the magazine in 2001 and 2002, and named the greatest star in ECW history by Vince McMahon. It's fair to say RVD was one of the greatest to ever do it. And truly, a lot of his success can be attributed to his technicality. We mean, he has even starred in a lot of action movies over the years because of his style. However, those who watched him actively in the 90s and early 2000s understand that what kept RVD most relevant was his iconic look. For his entire career, Rob Van Dam never switched up on the long hair and singlet look. Sometimes they were adorned with different dragon colors. Other times, they had yin and yang symbols printed on them. And on some days, they were covered in his signature phrase.
How authentic he was. He was very authentic as character, bro. Like, he was trying to be nobody. He just wanted to be himself, man. That's how authentic RVD was, man.
But what never changed was that he was a tight, spandex-like singlet. And just so you know, this guy might just have been the most intentional with keeping the same look all through his career. Back when he had just broken through on the mainstream in the ECW, Van Dam commissioned his designer Joe Holland to produce hundreds of different designs for these singlets. He had them made in an airbrushed, street-style vibe that matched the tough and edgy ECW aesthetic back then. In his words, the idea behind the look was to get the outfits that nobody else was wearing. According to Van Dam, that was always going to be a part of who I am and what I represent. Being a skilled fighter before making his debut in the ring, Robert Satkowski knew he had the ability to impress fans, but he also had to get the looks right. So rather than wait for a promotion's creative team to give him a gimmick and costume, Van Dam designed his look and has run with it for 3 decades now. Cool. He also revealed that when he joined the WWE in 2001, they actually tried to make him change his look. You heard that right. According to Van Dam, influential backstage producer and creative team member Michael Hayes wasn't a fan of the airbrushed singles. Hayes believed it was a style that belonged to the 1970s wrestling.
Bro, L Michael Hayes for that. L WWE Vince for that, bro. Like, why you trying to change his character? Like, come on, bro. Like, I get it, but still, bro, he was very authentic character. Like, his singlets, his hairstyle, his movesets. So why would the hell you change his character? He was so freaking over, bro. Like, why the hell you change it, bro?
And while he wasn't wrong about that, Van Dam didn't care. The company tried to reach a resolution with him, offering to allow him to wear a more ordinary, non-airbrushed black singlet. However, RVD stood by his word and refused to change his look. The WWE eventually agreed to give it a try, and the rest is history, seeing as fans totally fell in love with the look. In fact, the same management that didn't approve of this look later ran an entire segment of their
I hear of companies, like corporate companies in general, trying to change who you are, but no, I'm not changing who I am, bro. Like, I will be me. If you don't like who I am, bro, I could care less, because that's who I am. I'm not changing for y'all. Like, never change for anybody, bro. Never, ever change for nobody, bro. Like, always be you, be authentic, and be yourself, bro. Like, don't change for anybody.
WWE Icons documentary, in which they detailed the history of RVD's one-of-a-kind gear. Today, even though RVD is past his prime and his physique isn't as eye-catching as it once was, he still sticks to his look whenever he makes sporadic appearances in any promotion. Don't get it twisted, though. It's not every time sticking to one look works out for wrestlers. Take Lance Storm, for example. No one would blame you for not knowing who this guy is, considering he struggled to get an
I know he
in-ring
was.
character that would be
Lance
successful
Storm?
for a long time. Another veteran,
ECW.
Lance Storm,
But he
began
wasn't
his
over in
professional
WWE.
wrestling
Yeah.
career in 1990 after being trained
I don't
by
know.
Ed Langley and Brad Young of the Hart Brothers Wrestling Camp at the Silver Dollar Action Center in Calgary. He debuted against his fellow student, Chris Jericho, and would later go on to be a tag team partner with Jericho, as the two worked on a number of promotions, including Smoky Mountain Wrestling and some other promotions in Japan. After this, Storm joined the ECW, where he spent the next 3 years working with Justin Credible as the Impact player. He also had some pretty good storylines, like his feud with Chris Candido before eventually moving to the WCW, which is where Lance really made a name for himself. In his first year in the WCW, Lance Storm won the United States Heavyweight Championship, the Cruiserweight Championship, and the Hardcore Championship, becoming the first and only wrestler in the promotion's history to hold 3 titles simultaneously. To keep it real, the WCW only gave him so much push because Storm had the looks and technicality to be one of the best and biggest names around. He'd had 2 other reigns as the United States Heavyweight Champion before the company was bought by the WWE in 2001. Seeing as he was one of the biggest stars at the time, the WWE bought over his contract and immediately threw him into the mix in the Invasion storyline. In fact, Storm was the first ever WCW superstar to invade a WWE program. At first, McMahon portrayed him as a serious, humorless heel who had storylines teaming up with Mike Awesome against Edge and Christian. He was also given a push to win the WWE Intercontinental Championship in his first few months. Storm would later feud with the Hardy Boys over the WWF and WCW tag team titles as part of the Hurricane tag team. Not gonna lie, this dude got as much of a push as he needed, getting to face the likes of The Rock and Rob Van Dam, while also teaming up with Kurt Angle and William Regal. Over the next couple of years, the WWE repeatedly switched up Storm's gimmick. Once he was a tough, humorless heel, then he was a stark anti-American, then he was a wrestler who danced in the ring to entertain fans. So many gimmicks. But guess what never changed? His look. All through his years in the WWE, Lance Storm maintained the shirtless look with black and red trousers and boots. Even when he switched to Speedos, he still wore them in the same black and red color. Unlike Goldberg, whose monotonous look made fans love him, Lance Storm's same look backfired, with fans regarding him as a boring character. At some point, the entire wrestling arena would boom with chants of boring from fans, leading to Steve Austin once taunting Storm by bringing a pillow and blanket to the ring. Changing gimmicks never did the trick, and eventually the WWE couldn't find a way to make Storm a big name, so he was released in 2005. He'd go on to work on the independent circuit for many years before opening his own wrestling academy and, later, becoming a producer for Impact Wrestling. Up next, we have the late Curt Hennig, or as he's better known, Mr. Perfect. Unless you know your wrestling history, you're probably not familiar with either name. This guy debuted as a pro wrestler way back in 1980. Back then, wrestling was more about looks than anything else. And if anyone knew this, it was Curt.
Back in the 80s and 90s, these had the body, these had the character, these had good looks. Like, that's what you needed in the 80s and the 90s, bro. Like, that's... But now, it's now time changed, you know?
Hennig, the son of professional wrestler Larry the Axe Hennig. Kurt grew up around the ring and had virtually all of his childhood friends end up as pro wrestlers, from Rick Rude to Tom Zenk, Brady Boone, Nikita Koloff, John Nord, Road Warrior Hawk, and Barry Darsow. So from early in his wrestling career, Hennig picked up a look, long blonde hair, a singlet, and a ripped physique, and added the perfectionist gimmick to it and never looked back. What stood Hennig out as Mr. Perfect, however, was the way he struck a balance between having an iconic look and actually being technically gifted. This helped him stay relevant and successful in all the promotions he worked in, and that means a lot, seeing as this guy worked in a ton of wrestling promotions over the 2 decades of his career. First, he debuted in 1980 with the American Wrestling Association, a promotion that had made his father a star. Then he worked for what was then the WWF for 2 years, between 1981 and 1983. While there, Hennig established himself as a promising young performer against the likes of Playboy, Buddy Rose, Greg Valentine, and
Hey,
Killer
boy,
Khan,
what?
but wanting more spotlight, he opted to move to Pacific Northwest Wrestling while also working in the AWA. His most successful era in the WWE came between 1988 and 1996, when he had a feud with Hulk Hogan over the WWF Championship. He also won the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship twice during this period and became the longest reigning title holder of the 1990s. The next phase of Mr. Perfect we'd see was in the WCW, where he became World Heavyweight Champion on pay-per-view. He left the company in 2000 prior to the WWE taking over and would go on to work everywhere, from Australia to Japan to Puerto Rico, before eventually returning to the WWE in 2002 for the Royal Rumble. Frankly speaking, this era held a lot of promise for Mr. Perfect, as he soon became a fan favorite after holding his own against some of the biggest superstars, from Brock Lesnar to Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, and Batista, as well as having short feuds with Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and Rob Van Dam. Unfortunately, his stay at Vince McMahon's company was cut short due to a backstage altercation between him and Brock Lesnar on the infamous Plane Ride from Hell. Hennig had reportedly pranked.
Oh my God, Plane Ride from Hell, man. I think the pay-per-view that there was 2002, it was an insurrection. That Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Vince, everybody was there. Lesnar, Mr. Perfect, Scott Hall. Well, like, that Plane Ride from Hell was freaking crazy. So I could have got that name. Mr. Perfect and Brock Lesnar wrestle inside in the plane. That's crazy, bro.
The Beast incarnate, who didn't take the
prank. Another thing, remember S-Pax cut Michael Hayes' hair, and Michael Hayes was pissed off, bro. Yo, Michael Hayes was pissed off, bro. I remember that.
Lightly, resulting in a massive brawl. After he was released, Mr. Perfect went to work for the NWA and was there until his untimely death in 2004, when he died due to excessive substance abuse and alcohol intoxication at the age of 44, putting his career into perspective. While it can be said that Hennig had issues committing to any promotion for too long, it's a surprise how much he stuck to his look and gimmick. No matter the country, no matter the company, Mr. Perfect was always Mr. Perfect. To date, he has been credited by many, including Vince McMahon, as one of the guys who raised the standard of technical wrestling. Renowned professional wrestling journalists Bob Ryder and Dave Scherer have recognized him as one of the best all-round competitors this business has ever produced, while the likes of Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash have also commended Hennig's in-ring talents. In Hogan's words, everybody would check their egos at the door when they came to a building that Curt Hennig was in, because you couldn't outwork him, you couldn't outshine him, and you couldn't outperform him. He was the best of the best. Last on our list of WWE wrestlers who never changed their looks is Brock Lesnar. If you have ever seen this guy's throwback pictures, you'd have been expecting him to pop up somewhere on this list. This dude literally went 2 decades without aging. If anything, his physique only got better. Lesnar turned pro in 2002 after spending his younger years serving in the U.S. Army as part of the National Guard, working at a construction site and playing football almost professionally. By the time he made his debut in the WWE, he had subjected himself to extreme physical conditioning, so he quickly rose through the ranks. In his first year, he became the youngest performer in the company's history to win the WWE Championship, and his getting such a push is understandable, considering the wrestling industry has always had a special spot for physically intimidating guys. Since then, he has become a record 3-time WWE Universal Champion, his first reign of 504 days being the 7th longest World Championship reign in the promotion's history, and has also won 2 Royal Rumble matches, the Money in the Bank ladder match, and the King of the Ring tournament, once each. Many fans today don't know that Lesnar actually took a break from wrestling in 2005 to pursue a UFC career. During that time, he won the UFC Heavyweight Championship, defeated interim UFC Heavyweight Champion Shane Carwin to unify the Heavyweight Championships and become the undisputed UFC Heavyweight Champion, and headlined some of the UFC's biggest ever pay-per-view events. Ordinarily, for any wrestler going away from pro wrestling for some years, many would expect a complete rebranding when the wrestler returns. Marketing-wise, that would be the right move, as management would be hoping to get the wrestler a new fan base and all that, but not Lesnar. When he eventually...
No, Vince did not care at that time. Vince did not give a F at that time, bro. The way Vince was pushing that during that time, you can never get over unless you was Roman Reigns or Lesnar, Cena, or like 2017, 2018, unless you was dumb, but nope, you was not getting over at that time.
returned to the WWE in 2012, he looked exactly the same, ripped, with a military-esque haircut, and ready to tear his opponents apart. Sure, sometimes he wears armless vests, sometimes he rocks a cowboy hat, and sometimes he trades his shorts for trousers. But those are only for special occasions. Brock Lesnar has been in the WWE for over 20 years, and there has never been a time you looked at him and got confused about who he was. Hell, kids even dress like him for Halloween, and there's an entire cosplay line dedicated to his look with the black and red shorts. Which of these looks do you think is the most iconic? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Ring Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.
Hey, W freaking video, man. W freaking video. That was amazing video. Amazing. If y'all like him, go subscribe to him. It's called Revival Wrestling. Yeah, so hope you guys like the video. Hope you guys hit the subscribe. Hit the like and subscribe. I will see you next video. Peace out, guys. Peace.